Ladies and gentlemen, I am dating coach Eric Leonard. I work with datingbyeric.com, and I'm going to tell you about something that is killing your conversations and your relationships right now, and you don't even know it. I'm also going to tell you a very simple way to fix that thing. But before I do that, I'm going to ask you all to subscribe down below, please. There's going to be a lot of great content coming out of this channel. Lots more coming for you. All right, let's get to it, shall we? So, today's topic, we are going to talk about negativity in conversations and the way we present ourselves. It's an attraction killer. Now, you're probably smart enough to know you shouldn't talk about negative topics like death when you're going on a date or when you're with your boyfriend or write about in your profile. You probably shouldn't tell stories about that one time you got really sick and almost died and went to the hospital. No one wants to hear about this stuff, guys. You already know that. It's obvious. That's not what I mean by negativity. At least, that's just the surface of it. Negativity literally refers to a statement that is made in a subtractive direction. That's why it's called negative statement or negativity. You're talking about things you don't want, you don't like, or you're running from. You're trying to subtract them out of your life. That's what I'm talking about today. So to give you an example, not too long ago, I was looking through the various dating profiles on my Bumble account, and I came across one that otherwise had a fairly attractive profile, but she made this statement towards the bottom of it, and she said, "Please swipe left if you're still hung up on your ex." Seems reasonable, doesn't it? But here's the problem. By me reading this profile, it uglifies the woman because she used a negative statement. Okay, she talked about something that was bitter for her. And even though it's totally reasonable for her to make a request like that, I'm still thinking, boy, sounds like she's a little bitter, a little hung up herself here. Not sure if I want to meet this girl. She has a negative, bitter attitude. I don't want to go out with a Debbie Downer. No, of course not. All right, so you got to take the negativity out of your profiles, out of your dating conversations, because statistically speaking, this is one of the biggest attraction killers that I come across in my coaching career, despite the fact that it seems simple enough to identify. So again, a negative quality is anytime you're describing something you do not like or want. A couple of weeks ago, a client of mine went on a mock date. That's a service that I provide through my coaching company. You can actually go out for practice dates with a trained professional. So he opted for one of these. The date itself went okay, but he had made a statement towards the end there that really repelled her a bit. He said, "I prefer not to hang out with people who smoke pot." It's totally reasonable, everyone. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I have a feeling what he meant to convey was that he's a very healthy person. It's a very straight crowd. He's a hard worker, doesn't have time for drugs. Not a bad idea, not a bad way to live, honestly. Nonetheless, while she reasonably understood what he meant, she had these thoughts that were lingering in after the date, thinking, I have friends who smoke pot sometimes. Is he the judgmental or bigoted type? Maybe I don't want to go out with this person. He seemed to say that with a little bit of hostility. It seemed like it upset him. Negativity is always going to lead to an association of negative emotions, no matter what it's about, no matter how reasonable it is. So this begs the question, if negativity is such an attraction killer and so many of you out there are committing it, what can you do to correct it? You guessed it, use positive statements instead. Converse to negative statements, positive ones are statements or qualities that had an additive component to them. This means you're talking about the things you do want more of, you're seeking, you're running towards. Always, always, regardless of what it's about, has either a negative or positive spin to it. I'm only asking you to look at the positive side right now. If you have something negative to say, instead, find out what the positive correlate of that thing is and say that thing instead. Let me give you an example. Back to my client who said he does not smoke pot or doesn't want to hang out with anyone who smokes pot. He could have said this instead. I really value a healthy lifestyle. I've personally chosen not to do drugs because it's very important for me to live a healthy lifestyle, exercise regularly, eat healthy, etc. That right there paints him in a much more positive light. It's virtually the same thing if he were to have complained about or made a statement how he didn't like hanging out with people who smoke pot, but it sounds much better, much more attractive. Another example, and boy, this next one is big in today's age. Instead of saying, I prefer not to date people who vote Democrat. Try this. I prefer to date people who voted conservatively or Republican. You're literally saying the same thing, but one sounds much better than the other. And we don't have to wonder, is this person a jerk? Never go negative with this stuff. Now, I want to provide everyone with a little bit of a bonus. This goes for both men and women, because what's very popular right now for some reason is when you go on dates or when you're entering into a newer relationship, you ask your partner, the person you're dating, tell me, how did your last girlfriend or boyfriend end? How did you end that last relationship? The problem with that question, and the reason I personally advise you not to ask that question, is it only opens up a dating situation for bringing in some negative emotions. Now, if you get asked this question, there's a very simple way to handle it, to address it, and that is talk about the positives of your ex. Even if it didn't end well or cleanly, you have something positive to say about them. Whenever I get asked the question about my last relationship or my ex, I will say, she was really a wonderful person. Loved dating her. We got along great. All these positive qualities about her, shared hobbies, etc. Kind of just went different directions. She wanted to start a business elsewhere. I couldn't make the geographic move at the time. I had other pursuits, other dreams I was chasing. So we did the best thing we could do in that situation. We parted ways and we did our best being friends. I think we were largely successful. There's so many wonderful things going on in my life right now, and I learned a lot of great lessons from that relationship, even though it did not work out. Now, if you guys were in a situation in which there was truly a lot of trauma, maybe an abusive partner, something involving drug addiction, something where it's really hard to think of any positive quality about them, I don't expect you to speak positively about them. I know sometimes that's easier said than done. So here's what you do if you get asked that question. As you are comfortable, answer the ex-boyfriend or girlfriend question by keeping it very factual but very brief. So tell them, hey, honestly, it was a pretty rough situation. They actually had a heroin addiction and that forced me to have to leave them. The good news is now I'm really moving on with my life. I'm really looking forward to these next things coming up. I'm getting involved in a new church. I'm trying new sports and meeting new people. It was a nightmare at the time, but I feel like I can finally put it behind me. And these are all the wonderful things I have coming up. That is addressing that question with positivity. All right, so go ahead and give them the facts that they need, but don't go down the rabbit hole. Instead, talk about the positives in your life. Talk about the positives that are happening for you now that you left that very ugly situation. I talked about this today because it seems to be a little bit of an epidemic here. A lot of people are bringing in a lot of negativity for some reason. It's almost like there's a lot of negative things happening in the world right now. In any case, people go on dates to feel good, not bad. They want to hear about the happy stuff. They want to get inspired. So I advise everyone, think about the way you've crafted your profiles. Think about the conversations you have. Think about your current partners and ask yourself, do you bring negativity, which is defined as a subtractive statement or component? If you're doing that, if you're bringing that into it, you need to correct that immediately. No, they're not breaking up with you right away, but you can bet it is taking some points off and it is making it harder for them to be with you or to be attracted to you. That's all for right now. Once again, guys, please subscribe to the channel. We have more great content coming up. Check out the website, datingbyeric.com, and maybe get on a mock date while you're at it. I'll see you guys next time.